Stand arms around one another. It is a brave.
How is it that some athletes can keep their calm and perform in moments of extreme pressure and others cannot? How is it that some athletes can perform in situations so stressful that even the spectators are too anxious to watch?
Frontside 540, now into the double make twist.
How is it that when everything is on the line, some athletes can pull off the seemingly impossible?
1260, and he puts it down, and Shaun White with an incredible run there.
In this video, I will answer these questions using psychological theories. I will start by explaining why our ability to selectively attend to information and to quickly narrow and broaden our attention is crucial to perform under pressure. I will then explain how anxiety affects our ability to process information, which ultimately affects our performance. To explain why athletes can perform under pressure, we must first understand what happens in our mind. According to the capacity model, it is believed that people are limited by the amount of information processing space available to them. If a skill requires all of the processing space, the skill is selectively attended to at the expense of everything else. As the athlete gets better at doing specific skills, the amount of information processing space needed to perform these skills decreases, which allows the athlete to focus on multiple tasks at once. Essentially, performing a skill goes from being a controlled process to an automatic process. When the skill is first being learned, the process is slow, effortful, and consumes most of the information processing capacity of the athlete. However, when a skill is mastered, it requires little conscious attention. With that in mind, I can now explain why we choke under pressure. According to Eastbrook's Cue Utilization theory, the reason for why anxiety can be detrimental to performance is because as anxiety increases, our attention narrows and our ability to process information becomes momentarily impaired. In important moments when we feel the pressure, an increase in our level of anxiety can narrow our attention to the point where we miss relevant, important information. For example, after a lot of practice, the skill of shooting a basketball has become an automatic process for elite basketball players. However, in times of pressure and increased anxiety, a player's attention can narrow to a point where they think too hard about the movement rather than letting it flow automatically. Instead of focusing their attention on where they want to shoot the ball, their attention narrows to consciously direct their limbs to shoot the ball, which disrupts the automatic process. The goal then is to find an optimal level of anxiety, one in which we are not too relaxed and distracted by irrelevant information, and one in which we are not too anxious that our attention narrows to the point where we miss important information. For example, we want to find an optimal level in which our attention can be narrowed to ignore the screaming fans and to focus on the location where we want to place the ball, but not narrow our attention to such a granular level that it becomes occupied by consciously trying to perform a movement that we have already mastered and normally perform automatically. According to Yerkes' theory, the optimal state of energy and anxiety varies depending on the sport. For sports with low skill complexity, such as weightlifting, Yerkes' theory states that the optimal level of energy and anxiety is higher than for sports with high task complexity, like soccer. While it is likely that this is true, this theory does not take into consideration that the optimal level of anxiety could vary depending on an athlete's personal disposition. According to multidimensional anxiety theory, an athlete's level of anxiety is partly due to the situation and partly due to the athlete's personality. An example of this would be the preparation for the race between Michael Phelps and Chad Leclos. These athletes have different optimal levels of pre-competition anxiety, which is why they have different routines to prepare for competition. There simply is no one-size-fits-all. Each athlete must find their own optimal level of anxiety and form a routine to get there before competition. To address the missing variables in Yerkes' theory, Yuri Hannon developed the IZOF theory. The IZOF theory argues that every athlete has their own optimal level of anxiety, and for an athlete to find their optimal level of anxiety, they should keep track of their level of anxiety before different competitions to see which level of anxiety led to their best performance. Another factor that affects our anxiety is confidence and the importance of the moment. Essentially, if you are indifferent about the outcome, or if you believe that you are perfectly capable of dealing with a situation, then the anxiety will decrease and not impair your performance. Conversely, if you determine that you do not have the skill, confidence, and experience to deal with the situation, and you care strongly about the outcome, then the anxiety will likely increase and impair your performance. More important than your level of anxiety is the perception of that anxiety. If you believe that the anxiety will actually help you prepare for competition, then the anxiety can actually be conducive for good performance. However, if you believe that anxiety will actually make you perform bad during competition, then it can make you feel more anxious and actually lead to a bad performance. So, to summarize, your ability to perform under pressure depends on your ability to process information, stay focused, and pay attention to relevant, important information. Too much anxiety leads our attention to narrow, and it leads us to miss important, relevant information that we need to make good decisions when we're in competition. On the other hand, being too relaxed leads us to focus on both relevant and irrelevant information, which can lead us to also make poor decisions and not be focused on the task at hand. The goal is to find the balance between not too anxious and not too relaxed, somewhere in the middle where you can be focused on the relevant information. I will end this video with advice for athletes. Number one, your goal is to find your optimal level of anxiety. This will vary from person to person because of personality and biological factors. Number two, practice anxiety management strategies. This will allow you to master your ability to manage your emotions during competition and allow you to stay within your optimal level of anxiety. Number three is to begin to think of your anxiety as helpful rather than detrimental. Simply reshaping your perception of anxiety can actually help you use it to your advantage. Number four is to remember that you're in control of how you feel and what goes on in your mind. If you're struggling with too little or too much anxiety, begin to keep track of your level of anxieties before competition and to find the optimal level of anxiety that led to your best performance. From then, form a routine that will allow you to get into this optimal level of anxiety that will help you perform at your best. That concludes this video. In part 2, I will be talking about mental and physical strategies that you can use to increase or decrease your level of anxiety in order to reach your optimal level of anxiety for performance. Thanks so much for watching. Good luck in your next competition, and click on that subscribe button to get notified when the next video comes out. See you guys next time. Peace.